Out of 58 triathlon deaths in the US and Canada between 2008 and 2015, 42 of them happened during the swim portion. In the 2011 New York City Triathlon, 2 athletes encountered life-threatening conditions as they vowed to conquer the might of water. The first, Michael Kudrick, was a 64-year-old triathlete from New Jersey. He was pushing through the grueling 1,500-meter swim when the unthinkable happened. In the middle of the race, surrounded by the chaos of splashing water and determined competitors, he collapsed without warning. A heart attack had struck while he was fighting through the waves. Despite a quick response from the medical team, he sadly passed away shortly after being pulled out. As the crowd reeled from the news of Michael's collapse, a 40-year-old woman also suffered a heart attack during the same swim. She, however, was rescued in time and luckily managed to pull through at St. Luke's Roosevelt Hospital Center. The race was supposed to signify endurance and strength, but it turned into a scene of heartbreaking tragedy. And once out of the water, it's best to remember that it takes more than just water to stay hydrated. A 30-year-old British athlete tragically passed away in a Frankfurt hospital just days after collapsing at the finish line of the 2015 Ironman European Championships. Held on an intensely hot day, according to reports from German newspapers. When the athlete collapsed at the finish line, he was taken to an intensive care tent on site, but his condition demanded a quick surgery. Without losing much time, the support staff quickly transported him to a hospital. But unfortunately, his condition kept worsening and he passed away shortly after. Ironman Europe released an official statement to offer condolences to the family of the departed soul and emphasized their intent to make the event as safe as possible. Such a collapse might make you suspect something like a heart attack, but it was actually much sadder. Professor Leo Lodish, head of the emergency medical team in Frankfurt, stated that the cause was brain swelling, likely brought on by a lack of salt intake during the race. Under those extreme heat conditions, Professor Lodish added that the athlete took mostly water during the race and didn't get enough minerals. The body needs extra salt and minerals when pushing hard in such extreme heat. It's tragic, but he emphasized that the organizer provided plenty of salt and mineral-rich drinks at the aid stations. But again, the most dangerous part tends to be the swim. In 2022, 56-year-old Andrew Phillips found himself in trouble during the swim section of the race. Andrew was a big name around Hale after moving there in the early 90s. He was an active member of the Bowden Rugby Football Club and was well known in the Manchester business circles. After he hung up his rugby boots, he didn't slow down. He switched to cycling with his old rugby buddies. Everyone at Bowden RUFC had only the best to say about him. They described him as a true gentleman with a massive circle of friends and a knack for making people smile. The race was on a sunny day, but the lake's calm waters were misleading. During the swim, competitors noticed pretty quickly that Andrew was struggling to stay afloat. The emergency crew at the event jumped into action, pulling him from the water and trying desperately to revive him. For 3 whole days, he struggled to pull through, but sadly, he never woke up. His demise was a real shock to everyone who knew him. An investigation into what exactly happened opened up at Oxford Coroner's Court. The coroner said that Andrew had suffered from a lack of oxygen to the brain, which led to cardiac arrest. The rugby club's website shared a touching tribute, saying how deeply he will be missed. Events like these bring up some harrowing questions. Why do so many people die during the swim leg? I can't stress this enough, that more than 72% of these deaths occurred during the swim. For years, it was easy to brush these tragedies off as straightforward cardiac events, a heart attack in the water followed by drowning. It seemed like a neat, logical explanation. After all, the swim leg of a triathlon is a chaotic, adrenaline-fueled scene. Murky waters, bodies colliding, and the sheer exertion of thousands of arms and legs thrashing around. It's a pressure cooker of intensity. Who wouldn't feel their heart race under those conditions? But maybe, just maybe, it's not so simple. In response to these tragedies, the focus on preventing swim deaths shifted to risk management. Triathletes were urged to get a full cardiac workup from their doctors to ensure their hearts could handle the intense demands of racing. Efforts to reduce risks went beyond medical checks. Athletes were taught techniques to stay calm in the water, recognizing that the stress and panic of the swim could trigger heart problems. The Ironman event also launched the Swim Smart initiative, encouraging participants to do a proper warm-up, ideally in the water, to boost circulation and lower the risk of cardiac arrest. Pre-race meetings became essential, with reminders about warning signs of a heart attack, chest pain, dizziness, and jaw pain, were communicated to arm athletes with the knowledge to save their own lives. The thing about Ironman triathlon is that it is a true test of an athlete's mental and physical limits. The environmental challenges are real, and to cope up, athletes must ensure proper diet and mineral intake to meet the high physical demands of the sport. But these events keep happening. On September 10, 2023, at the Ironman Wisconsin Triathlon, 51-year-old Dax Bakken, a local from Madison, Wisconsin, lost his life after a sudden medical emergency during the bike segment of the race. While cycling through Cross Plains, Wisconsin, Bakken suffered a severe medical event that brought his race to an abrupt and devastating halt. An off-duty police officer and a vigilant Ironman staff member rushed to his aid, fighting against time, doing everything they could to save him until EMS arrived. He was rushed to the hospital, but despite their best efforts, Bakken's life slipped away shortly after. Bakken wasn't just an athlete, he was a dedicated family man who had just finished his master's degree. He was the backbone of his family. He left behind his life partner Kristen Keir, their 8-year-old daughter Maeve, and 2 sons, Finn and Liam. In the wake of his loss, a GoFundMe set up a $100,000 goal to help support his devastated family as they navigate this unimaginable grief. The Ironman organization also released a heartfelt statement acknowledging the heroic efforts of the medical team and offering their deepest condolences to Bakken's loved ones. His sudden loss left a community heartbroken, a stark reminder of the physical and emotional toll that such an event can take. Most disturbing thing about Bakken's death is that to date, we don't know what exact medical condition ended up taking his life. And just a few months back in Texas, at an Ironman competition meant to be a celebration of his 50th birthday, Jean Frizzal from Quebec faced a tragic turn of events. Jean was not just any competitor. He was a devoted athlete who lived for challenges like these. He had traveled to Galveston, Texas, aiming to complete this triathlon with his friends, backed by the support of his loving wife, Véronique Trey, who believed in him wholeheartedly. The race started with the swim, known as the most demanding part of the triathlon. But during the swim, something went wrong. Jean knew he was in trouble and signaled for help. Rescue teams responded quickly, but despite their efforts, Jean's condition worsened rapidly. He was rushed to the hospital, but by the time Véronique could get to him from Quebec, he had lost consciousness and subsequently he perished. The family was left reeling, filled with grief and unanswered questions. What exactly happened in the water? Could anything have been done to prevent this tragedy? Determined to find answers, Véronique hired a lawyer in Texas to investigate. They looked into how the rescue was handled and whether the event organizers could have done more. There were hints from witnesses that the rescue efforts faced some challenges, which only added to Véronique's need for clarity. While they waited for the autopsy results, experts like Dr. Richard Moon from Duke University provided some insight. He talked about conditions like swimming-induced pulmonary edema, where the lungs fill with fluid during intense exercise. His research is all about figuring out why some athletes are hit by this and how to prevent it in the future. Even as the committees try more and more to prevent such tragedies, it's not always easy to know how the weather might interfere. As the sun rose over Morro Bay, nearly 1,900 athletes from various corners of the globe gathered, their spirits high and ambitions fiery. Soon after the athletes plunged into the water for the swim portion, the ocean seemed to turn against them. Unusually strong tidal currents made progress painfully slow and exhausting. The event that had begun under usual expectations soon morphed into a struggle to get back to the shore. Over 300 athletes found themselves trapped in relentless currents, with efforts to press forward proving futile. Some participants battled the unyielding water for as long as 90 minutes, far exceeding normal race times and pushing the limits of physical endurance and safety. Participants expressed disappointment not only in the race conditions, but also in Ironman's handling of the situation. Many felt that there was a lack of adequate preparation and communication regarding the water conditions, as well as insufficient adjustments to the race schedule based on those conditions. Complaints included inadequate warm-up areas and poor staff management, contributing to a frustrating experience for both athletes and their families. As a result of these issues, Ironman announced that it would cancel the Morro Bay race for 2025, ending its 3-year contract with the city prematurely. This decision surprised local officials and business owners who had anticipated continued collaboration with Ironman due to the event's potential economic benefits for the community. So what do you say? Would you risk everything like these athletes and participate in an Ironman triathlon? Let me know in the comments. Make sure to subscribe to the channel because I'll be posting much more stories and you surely don't want to miss them. See ya!